we're going to do now is test all these endpoints. We want to see if they actually work. So where do we start? We've tested the user list. We want to list the users. So that is all good. But now we have to stop this first. Stop the this one is still not working. What's going on with it? Okay, so let's start all over. We have to start all over since you've made changes on the server. So we have to run the server again. What? Another one. Wow. That's just wow. Okay, so and so the first one we are going to test is create user. So we know that one is post, right? We want to post data. Say route. So that will be slash users and then call the functions. Okay, so let's copy this endpoint and slash API slash user the post. So we are going to need the body raw. We are going to need the raw data so to send the so format it. Okay, so we don't have anything else. I have some data here that we can easily use. Okay, so I'm going to copy one of them. Let me just copy this one. Second one. Beautify. Okay, so we have the name, email, date, city, country. Okay, so send. User has been added. So let's go to our user and see. You see you reporter that we just add now. You can see it there. Let's add another one. Castilla Macias. Calista Macias. Okay, so user has been added. Okay, so this is Calista. I see Calista here. So it seems the response is not ordered, but we can order it. We can do that later. Okay, so that is that, and we're going to test update. So the same is like almost the same thing. So let's just duplicate the tab, but this one is patch. All right, so we are trying to patch a user. Now what you notice about the update is that you are going to supply the ID of the user. That is very important. So if you didn't supply the ID, like let's submit now, you should see an error. Method not allowed. Patch. Yeah, in fact method is not allowed because you haven't completed the method anyway. So you have to supply the ID. Like let's say 60. Could not get user profile. That means the user doesn't exist. So that's why we try to check just to confirm, to make sure. So we are going to need a real user with a correct user ID. Let's update Calista's profile. So our ID is 30. Okay, so ID is 30 and Calista Jonas. Okay, so let's change is it or then? Okay, so let's just say Calista at outlook.org. So user successfully updated. So let's check Calista profile again. Say Calista Jonas, Calista Outlook. You see everything is working so far, so good. Okay, so the next one is delete. You have to check for delete. So this endpoint, should we delete Calista profile? Let's delete someone else's profile. I like that name. Let's delete Rick Grimes profile. So his ID is 14. 14. So user successfully deleted. Let's call it again. So let's check the data. You see, Rick is gone. Rick is gone. Okay, so so that means our delete endpoint is working. And the last one is get. We want to get a single user. So let's use this one again. Get. You know, delete Rick's profile. So let's try to get his profile. See, record not found. So his profile is not found. So let's use someone's profile that is found, like Calista. I remember the ID. So something is wrong. The get. Oh, as if okay. It has been cancelled. Okay, so let's run it again. Some errors. You see, it's still not closing, but it should work for you. Once you click the allow, it should work. Mine is not working. I think maybe because I'm recording, right? So the user is not found, but the user that is found, like 30 Calista. The ID is not found again. Let me see. Okay, let's find Yuri Porter's profile slash users. That's the correct part, right? Users slash ID. Yuri Porter is what? 29. His ID is 29. So it's get socket hang up. So the error is what? The error is something went wrong. Select unaddressable value. The dialog is gone. Okay, select from user where ID is got 14 by users. Okay, so using unaddressable value. What is wrong? Get user by ID. We have the context. We're able to get the migration. Okay, the address. Okay, the migration. Okay, what about the first one? Is it migration to delete user? Okay, okay. We are trying to use a particular address. Okay, in the memories. These has something to do with the address in the memory, right? So unaddressable value. What a joke. Okay, so yeah, user fetched successfully, but we want to see that user. All right, so I'm going to return. I want to see that user. I want to see it. We call this data. That will be user model that we have here. This user model since we've store something in it. Okay, so we have to close the server, stop the server, and start again. Okay, allow. Yeah, that's just perfect. Okay, so let's find another user. Calista. You see Calista Jonas. So we see we are done with the backend. That's just everything we have to do on the backend. Okay, now the next thing now is that we want to see it on the front end too. We want to use it. We want to use ReactJS to interact with our backend, communicate, create a CRUD application that people can actually use on their front end. Okay, so this is just like some kind of full stack application, right? So what we are going to do now, normally I'm going to create a client folder, right? But since if you want to create React.js application, you have to specify the part, the app name. So we can just do that here. So that's npx create React. That is not correct. Yes, create React app client. Yeah, kind of correct. So that create React app is just going to do what? The MQS is going to pull a new create React app, a new React application for us, and we're going to have it in the client folder. So the installation is going on. Okay. So if you notice the noise is too much, I will have to do some improvement, but try to tell me if the noise is too much so that I can make improvement in the next tutorial. Okay, so okay. Okay, we are done. The installation is completed. So it says cd to client and run npm start. Okay, so cd client npm start. But before, okay, let's start first so that I can actually see if everything is going fine. It's going to run on port what 3001 because I'm already using port 3000. Yes, so port 3001. That's fine. Okay, but I want to run it on Safari. I'm already using this one for 3000, so for 3001, that's our fresh project. Now for this project, we are going to need Tailwind CSS, right? So we are going to install Tailwind CSS. So you see, I run this command now, then cd, but we are going to install the Tailwind dependencies and all. Okay, then we initialize the Tailwind CSS. So just copy all that and let me stop this. Yeah. Nice. So we also did what? Initialize Tailwind CSS. So that generates the config file that we have here, right? So now the Tailwind said the documentation says we have to add this. Okay, so let's do that. Nice. And here in our index.css we add this index.css. That will be in the part in the index.css. So let's just replace everything with it. Clear the whole thing and just paste that since it's a fresh project. So we run npm start again, just like the tutorial says. Yes, but 2001, please. I don't need the browser here. I want Safari. Nice. So everything is working perfectly now. But we have to build everything, right? So we need to install some dependencies. So just run this. We are going to run npm install. You can use install, you can use ashes. We're going to need ashes. We're going to need moment to format the date. We're going to need I think that's the only thing we need. Okay, so let's just install those. Since we already have Tailwind, that we handle all the user interface for us. Okay, I think we are going to need to install uh, React router down, right? So npm install React router. You see, we're able to navigate from one page to another using that in the sample that I showed. So we're going to install the React router down. Navigate. You can view each user's profile. So for this front end, I'm just going to start coding. It's not much so that you can save time. Okay, so install. So let's talk in more coding. Okay, so in the app JS, just ignore all those things. You can remove all that later, or I need to remove all this. But we are going to need React. Import React from React, and we are going to need React router done. Okay, so we are going to need browser. See, let me let me pick the reference before I start so that it can suggest it for me, so I won't make any mistake. So browser router, we call it as router. So it's just like we're trying to shorten it, router, like an alias, right? So route. Okay, so from React router down, and let's just clean all this. We don't need it. So return. No, what? We've already returned. So router. This router, right? Okay, so that's like the old. Has to hold the whole thing that you are trying to navigate, right? So route. You specify the route. You specify each route. So route and then each route. So let's create a new folder, call it users. Create a new new file, new element. Let's call it element. New component. And that's more succinct. So create a new component. So it's more like a function component. Okay, so we have that, and we have another component, view user. So view user, we've created this, and let's go back here, the route. Okay, so we are going to specify those routes. That's why I created them. We don't need them now yet. We haven't completed them yet. So it will be the index, the list component, This list component will be the index page. When one goes to localhost 300 slash, the main index will be the list. That will be the first page that will be shown to you. Okay. The element, you specify the element. Okay, you just supply a component. They're very easy. Let's just do it like this. That's more. Okay, so and the second one will be view user. But the thing is, oh, this list is not imported. Okay, you see, it automatically imports it for me, but you have to import them. You have to import them, right? So, and the path is what? Um, specify the path. You don't want path. You can say for the index, you can say path is slash, right? Or you just using you still mean the same thing. But now you want to view each user, so slash profile slash ID. All right. So it will point to this component. So doing that, we are done with this index page. So we have to work with these two, right? So let's run npm start to see what we are doing. If things are going well. Oh, Chrome is my default browser. Okay, so let's just okay, everything is empty. So we can see list. But, I mean, adjust it a little bit, but we can see list. So you see that the reason why we can see this list is because this index is pointing to this component, and the only thing showing there is what? This. So the only thing, the next thing we are going to work on is try to work on that one page. Okay. So first, we're going to have the config file because I don't want to waste your time. So let's try to do something. Let's try to do it a little bit faster. Okay. So the config is going to export const the app API URL. So the API URL is what? You have to pay attention to that. So let's just do it like this: slash API. That's the API URL without the forward slash. Please pay attention to that. Okay, so that's the API URL. I think that's what we need for now. So let's just start coding. Okay, so I'm going to need React. We are going to make use of React hooks. So use the fetch slash use state. Okay, and we are going to need ashes. Import ashes from ashes, and the React router done too. So import from. I want you to suggest for me so that that's why I want to point to what we are talking about. So link slash use search params slash use navigate. Yeah. Those are the things we are going to need, and let's use our React hooks. So the first one we are going to need is the users. Const users set user 0 to use state. You know how hooks work. You have to define the default state. Const the pages. You have to know what page we are. Alright. Set pages. Use state 0. So params to const just to get the parameters. You know what I mean by parameters? The parameters supplied in the route, right? Params, search params, set search params. from use search param. Okay, so and then we are going to need the navigation to let's navigate, use navigate. Okay, so that's what we need for now. So start creating our functions. But before we continue, so let's work with, we want to list the data, the user data. All right. Okay, so what are we going to do? That means once the page is loaded, the page should automatically list the user by calling the backend and then getting the response of user. Easy peasy. So use effect. That implies that you should do that immediately the component is loaded, or anytime the component is updated. Okay, so that will do what? Fetch data. That will just fetch data, and that will be one. And before I forget, let me just add it there. This search parameter will be updated every time this fetch data is what I mean, if every time the search parameter is updated, the fetch data will be called. Alright, so that's the reason why I had that. Now let's work on the fetch data. Fetch data, that will be asynchronous, sync, and okay, so const page. We want to get the current page. We talk about navigating through page, like pagination, page 1, page 2. So we want to know what page we are. Alright, so if you are in page 1, if you are in page 2, what data should be loaded, and you get the idea. So that's how the page works. And if there is page, so that should do what? Should append this to the URL. The page should be this page, just like some URL parameters, plus what? The search params dot get page. Alright, so if not, it should just be empty. Okay, nice. So let's try to make our request itself a backend request. So we try const response await. So fetch, we have backtick, so we can add our API URL here. You see, it automatically imports it for me. So if it doesn't do that, you have to manually import it yourself. Okay, so please pay attention to that. Okay, so users/user, you see API URL. What is API? You can see /user, just like in the Postman, right? So /users. Now we want to sort it. You see, I mentioned that it wasn't sorted the other time, so I want to sort it by what? By sort by negative ID. What that means is, if I say .id, that will be ascending order from lowest to highest, right? That's ascending order. But if I do negative, that will be descending order. Maybe 40, 39, you get the idea. Just like this. This is not ordered very well. You see 29, 30, that's not ordered. But it should be 30, 29, that is descending order. So Calista is the last person I had. Like I had the other time, as you witnessed. Okay, so should be ordered by ID, and the size per page, I want it to be 5. Just show me 5 per page. That's why you are able to see 5. Even for the file that I set the default one to be the default to be 20 per page. You see, default size is 20 per page, but I also said custom parameter should be enabled. So that means I can do as I want on these custom parameters. You get. So that means that I can update, I can override that. And then the last one, I want to append this page. You get, if there is page, it should be appended. If there is no page, you should just leave it like that. So page, nope. Okay, just like that. Okay, so the error we are getting now is missing catch. So we still need to add the catch for one moment. Okay, so const JSON is equal to await response dot JSON. Okay, so set users. Our hook is going to do its wonders here. JSON dot data. Nope. Yeah, JSON dot data dot items. You see, it's in items block. You see items block data items. So please pay attention to that. If your backend returns something else, you have to pay attention to that, please. Okay, so and the next one is set pages. You want to set the current pages. So JSON dot that dot data dot total pages. Total pages. And let's catch errors. Error. There's an error. Console dot log error. Okay, so our fetch data is good. It's all good. But let's try to see. I want to see it. I want to see those data that we just try to fetch now. Okay, so let's see them. Each okay, so sorry, user, if we check the length is greater than 0. All right, so if it's greater than 0, the length of the user is greater, so that means it will wait until the length of the user is greater than 0. So that's the idea. That's what I'm trying to do there. So we are going to map through list of users. We have the user, the key, we have the key, and let's just have div. Let's just have div here. All right, so else, we are going to have else right here, right? Just empty string. Okay, users is not this is set users. This is users, I mean. Okay, so each user, all right? So first important thing, don't ever forget, is the key. Very important. Okay, and the value is user dot what? I want to see the user dot name, right? Is that correct? Ha 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 ha. Look at that. You can see, so we can see the list of users. You can see the list of users, and that is good for us. So what we want to do is I want to create each users. All right, so let's create another component for that each user, so that I can have it in a different component. Each user.js for component each user. So that is going to accept the user and the fetch data function. Okay, it's going to accept the user as props and fetch data function that is in the main page, the list component. All right, this fetch data. So anytime something happens, we can easily call the fetch data to update the page. All right, so that's exactly what I'm trying to do there. Okay, so and so we are going to change this to each user, right? So each user has been automatically imported for me here from here. Okay, so we don't need all this, so we only need the key. I hope it's not getting confusing now. We only need the key and the, okay, that's the only thing we need there. So let's remove this. Yeah, so have you seen the code now? Okay, so but yet we want the user, this user, and the fetch data, of course. Fetch data. Okay, so each user is just displaying each user on its own. Okay, so we don't need to do that. But what we want to do now is, this is where our tailwind comes in. Okay, this is where our tailwind comes in. So so on the list page, we are going to do some designs on it. Okay, we're going to have some designs to put everything. So let's try to work on the designs. Okay, so class name, flex, justify center, throw it in the center, please. Thank you. And div, what? Let me change that. Uh, React. Okay, so div class name should be on a bigger screen. On a bigger screen, it should be, the width should be 1/3. It shouldn't be more than 1/3, and on smaller screen, the width should be full. And we have the the margin. We are going to have padding, some kind of padding there, padding 10. So that will give you some kind of padding first. And let's move this one inside here. That's kind of like inside, you see, it's in the center. Alright, so, and the design, we have some title at the top, like some navigation header there. So let's do that. Div last name, margin bottom, then flex, item center, justify between. We shouldn't be spending much of our time here, but I think some people those that haven't worked with Tailwind before should be able to pick one or two things from here. And if you already know about all this, you can just fast forward it to somewhere else where I'm talking about the other stuff. Okay, so last name, font, code, have it fast. Okay, so, and then we have button. The button will allow us to create the add user button. The add user. Yeah. So class name, background is purple, 700, text white. You can see the changes. Padding on, yeah, horizontal, padding vertical. Padding vertical should be 1.5 and should be rounded a little bit. Rounded, I see, to round. Okay, so and just have the what? Let's just put this in a div so that it can be a little bit different from the rest. So what we know now is that we've actually designed everything in the center, so it looks closer to what the sample that I showed you. So I think that works for us. So we won't talk about the pagination yet, but let's try to design the each user page, each user component. All right, so on each user, So that should be React. Let me change the okay. So class name. Let me just type it. Slate. User slate should be 100 rounded LG MB4 P -4 over. Once you over the each user, what should happen? There should be a border. Should have a border, and over border color, over border should be purple 700. Okay, so and I'm going to have div. We're going to have another div. Okay, so we're going to have another div. That will be the username. User dot. Should be able to see the name now. You see. Okay, so that will be the username and the user email. So let's put some styles in it. Font medium. I want to be seeing it. Font medium, and this should be email. So shouldn't be bold. So text slate. We're trying to reduce the contrast 400, so it's not bold. Trying to have some kind of hierarchy. All right. So and div. Now we need something. So let's just add some class name to it. Should be test small flex space x4 margin top should be what? Space x4 should be, have like space. There should be space between them on horizontal level. All right. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. All right. So let's go and get link from. We're going to need link from. Just link from React down. Okay. Just link. Okay. So link. You know what that is about, right? You want to be able to view the user detail. So where is it navigating to? Where is the link navigating to? It's going to profile, like we mentioned in our route, the app.js. Remember, profile / then we supply the ID. User dot ID. Mind the ID is capital letter ID, because that's the format in the back from the back end, right? So it's going to hold something. So let's make it like that. So call it view profile. So you can see the view profile button there. A link. Okay, and we have button that does what? Let me just do it like that. Edit and delete. But this delete is going to be a little bit red, so that you can know that okay, that's danger. If you want to, you won't be able to retrieve once you delete. So you should be able to see that. Perfect. And I think that's pretty much what we need for now. And let's go back to the list. Now the list, you can see, is in fact looking really awesome now. So I want to be able to, okay, let's do the paginate. Okay, so that we can navigate from one page to another. So that you can see exactly what's going on. Paginate, and that will be down here. Okay, after the list. So we are looking, so margin top 10. So we give it some kind of spacing. So this one is a little bit complicated, but you should be able to just follow my code. Array dot I had to tweak the code to to do exactly what I want. Pages, so I kind of get the pages, and uh, index plus one. It's like kind of looping from a, like I have a number, like let's say I have a number 9, so I want to like turn an integer to an array that says 9, 8, 7 to up to 1. You get? So that's exactly what I'm trying to do there, in case you are confused, right? Using just the length of the pages. So that's why the code looks a little bit, let's see, a little bit mouthful. APG and key. Okay, so I have an array. We are trying to loop. We are trying to loop. Okay, so don't let that be confusing or intimidating. But what we are having here is what, in each one we're going to have a link from where React router down. Okay, so where is that link going? So it will be going to the next page. All right, so that will be to backtick. We're going to have backtick, and page is equal to the key. We have the key here, so it will be specifying the key. Actually, the list of pages start from 0, as you can see here. The list of pages start from 0. You see the current page is 0, so it's not starting from 1. So that's why I used key automatically like that. So page slash, I really hope you understand this. Okay, so and the key, you need the key, so we are in a list. The normal thing is to supply the key, and the class name, we need the class name to give it some kind of designs, right? Okay, so we are just going to give it some designs. For design, well, for what we have, in Paginate we have to signify which one is active, which one is not active. All right, so that's going to a little bit complicate things a little bit. All right, but it's not much, so let's just try to make it dynamic. And we have order, normal. We have padding on the horizontal axis, and we have padding on the vertical axis, and we have margin right. Give it some space. And now we want to check if the page is active. So we need to define a new variable here. So let my page, give some space. Let my page is going to search param dot get. We want to get the current page. Okay, so page, if there is a page, right? If there is a page in the parameter here, it should return the page. All right, but if there is none, it should be 0. So we come here again to that. Hey, I hope you remember, please don't get lost. Okay, so if that page is got key, it should signify that, okay, this page is the active one. I'm not sure you are seeing what I'm doing there. So if that page is got to the key, the current key that we have, right, it should just display it. So we should kind of add something that will be distinct. So purple 600 text purple 100. But what about the content? That will be what? The content will be what? Key that you supply. We are just displaying the number, nothing special. Should be able to see that here. Okay, so let's see. So since the first one, there's no nothing in the parameter, there's no page in the parameter, so that means at default the current page will be 0. So that's why this one is 0, right? And if there's 0 in parameter, it's still 0. But if you move to the next one, you see You can see, so even the data is automatically updated. See, goes to the backend and call the data again, and like that, like that, like that. Okay, so I think we are done with the pagination here. The next thing, the next one is a little bit complicated. We are going to be dealing with modal. All right, so modal. That's a very long code, but we are going to catch up. Okay, so if you don't want to type, you can. I'll provide the link to the repo in the description, so you can just copy it from the repo and save your time, save yourself some time. Okay, so but I'm going to type it in case you want to type it too. Okay, so I'm going to call start modal, beginning of the modal. Let me just end modal so that you won't confuse it with something else. So you know it's inside that particular block. It's a very long code. Okay, so try to catch up. Okay, so div, I'm just going to be typing relative vector hidden area label by what is this? Label by modal by 2. Okay, so area modal is equal to true. ID new, so that's the ID of the modal, new modal. So you can easily point to it that okay, this is the ID we are talking about. Then let's talk about the background opacity. When you have a modal, there is going to be some kind of overlay or some kind of background opacity on it. So fixed insert. Wow. Why is it not working? Insert 0 bg black bg opacity. Background opacity should be 70. So I give the background some kind of opacity transition. Opacity. So transition will be targeting just the opacity, but like the normal CSS, like we used to do in the normal CSS. Hearing is pretty fun. Yeah. Okay, you know how to use it. Okay, so then insert 0 overflow y auto. So inside the form itself, flex, it's going to have some kind of flex, hence, and justify, center, I string, paragraph 20, text, center, text center, small block, small string, padding should be 0. Okay, so span, just the basic modal code for Tailwind, so it's not a big deal. But I don't want to copy and paste. Alright, so that's why I'm typing, so that you too think you are enjoying it. Just keep on typing. You're going to, that will make you get used to it, especially if you are just starting out, or maybe this is the first Golang application or React application you are building. Okay, so it's better if you type. You get used to it. Screen and area hidden. Easier to true. Supply the attribute and all be inside something. 8203. Nice. Okay, so now the real modal itself, the form itself. Div, class name, the relative, the inline block, align middle. I won't be explaining what these things are doing. You know, we don't really have enough time for that. But if you want me to drop it to you on Tailwind CSS, and tell me in comments. Okay, so overflow, hidden, shadow, XL, shadow should be extra large, transform, form, transition, or so that picking everything. Same. Margin, vertical axis, and match with the LG. A minimum of smaller screen, so that is what that means. Okay, so now the form, yeah, that would be inside this block. Okay, the form. Now we have the form. Since we typing. Okay, so the form you have ID, so that we know exactly what form we are talking about. Okay, so that will be the name form. So on submit, we have the on submit, and let's have it now. That should be suggesting that on submit for me, but I don't know why. Store user, that doesn't exist, so let's create it. It's not going to work. Okay, so let's use arrow function. Let's it will be async, or I'll deal with that later. Let me deal with it now, in case I forget. It will be async. Okay, so submit. That's all good. I want us to be able to see one form so that we can see we are making progress. So we are going to group them into let's group BG white. I have a white background and the title, last name Rex, justify between, what is this? Justify. I need to spell it by myself. That's not cool. Justify between px8 py for border b. There should be a border button. That's just the idea. So I'm talking about the title now. So this is the title area. Like I want to have a title of the modal. New user. Okay, so font medium. Okay, so button. So let's mention the type. You have to explicitly mention the type because it will just submit the form. You tell the form that no, this button is just a button, not the type is not submit. Okay, close. And that's that about the title and the main form itself, div. So let's give it some padding and px 8 and py 8 py. Okay, so each talk about each input, the label and the input. So div class name, margin button 5. So we have the label. In any form, you should have a label. Label element. I'm not interested in this. First, I want the label. Thank you. Okay, so class name, log, test, grade. You should have a different component for this, but you don't have time for that. So it's just test, send, font, bold, margin button 2. So the label, the first label is name. We are going to accept name. Okay, so the input itself, type is test, and the name is name, as you are expecting in the backend. It won't work if those information are not completed, because we use the validator in the backend to validate everything. Make sure they are perfectly working. Okay, so shadow, appearance, no, and border. Should have the border rounded, should be rounded, width should be full, py2 and px3, test 3 700, and leading tight, focus, outline, none, focus, shadow, outline. Okay, so now that's just for the design. That's why I said we should use different components, so we don't have to be repeating all this. We are just going to copy and paste, so no problem with that. No problem. Now we are done with our modal. No, we are not done with our modal, but we're done with one of the inputs. So that should be enough for us to see. Okay. So we want to open modal. Let's do open modal and close modal function. And that would be, let's use an arrow function. Const open modal document. I'll just use vanilla JavaScript to get the ID and can actually communicate with it. So remember, I named the modal new modal the other time. Okay, so please pay attention to that. So class list, you can remove, because at default is hidden. Okay, so we'll remove the hidden class. But if you are trying to close the modal, that means we are going to add we are going to add hidden to the modal, right? Because at default hidden is added to it. So if you are closing, you have to add it hidden to it. So add, just like that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so if you click on add user, so where's the button? Okay, this is the button. So on click, boom, easy, like that. So that's what I'm trying to say. So if you click on close, you should be able to close it. So where is the close? Inside our modal. So this is the close button. On click, close modal. Okay, close modal, just like that. Very easy. So let's add the remaining input. Okay, so we are just going to copy and paste the whole thing. So there should be a margin there. I said MV instead of, so there should be a margin. So we copy and paste. We have how many inputs? Is expecting how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is expecting 5. 1, 2, 3. That's 4, 5. So this one is what? We have email. The name will be what? Email. And the type will be email. And we have date. The type will be date. And the name will be date. So right, and the input type will be date. I really hope you understand all this. Okay, so I don't want to go and start explaining like that. Okay, so the next one is city, and the name is city. No, the time won't be city. Text. Okay, so we're supposed to use drop down for that, but we don't have enough data for that. So country, the name will be also what? Country. So they are all required. So there's no way you submit the form without actually requiring it. Okay, so the last one we need is the button. The button for submission. Okay, so it's going to be flex, justify, and I want the button to be on the end of the flex. So button submit, and that default is going to be submit. So well, let's submit. Let's specify that submit, but default is submit. I know to work on some browser, so that's why. So class name, BG Blue 500, text white, padding on vertical axis, padding on horizontal axis, and rounded. Okay, so refresh. Can you see that? It's looking really great. So let's work on submission and everything. Now once you submit here, it's going to confirm to you have to fill the information there. So once you submit, what will happen? On submit, it will call on submit function. On submit, it call this function that we have here on submit. So let's work on that function. Store user, and for this async won't be needed. It won't be needed. Okay, so so we can easily do that event. We can even easily do prevent default. So it won't just submit like a normal submission form submission. So we are just doing that to be able to get the content of the form. All right, so that's what we are doing. Get element by ID, and you see I named the form. If you remember, I named the ID of the form. You can check again. So let's get the form data. The form data is new form data. I like this too. And with this, you can just get the data inside the form. Really interesting. Okay, so let's make our ashows request. Ashows post fetch. So backtick can supply our API URL slash user, and then we supply the form data. I really hope you understand. Form data that we have here, supply it here. Easy. So then we check if everything is okay. So the response, if we get the response, we should call it function complete form, because there are a lot of things you have to do. We have to close the form once the what's it called? We have to close the form once the input is completed. So what I supplied is this form, not the response. Okay, so that's the only thing I need, because I want to close that form. I need to close that form. Okay, so for now, if there is any error, you have to check it from the log. Okay, you don't have time to work on alert or notification. Okay? So response. So complete form doesn't exist, as you can see in the error. So let's create that function. Const complete form is going to accept form, and it's going to close Modal. Right. We only have one Modal here, which is pointing to this ID. So you can easily call close Modal here. It will be harmless. We don't need to supply anything or do anything. And then we have to reset the form, empty it, because if you don't do this, the data you just submit will still be there. Alright, so we are going to call fetch data to fetch all the data again. Instead of, we can, another way to do is to append data you just submit now. But you remember something, we got those data from a form. We didn't get it like each, like we have a frame data, we have a map or an object. Alright, so we have to call the whole thing again to make sure it's okay, and then we navigate. That's the reason we call navigate the other time. So to navigate to the main page, which is absolutely fine. Okay, so I think that should do the trick. That should do the trick. That will do the trick. Okay, so let's use some data we have here. So Fatima Pocket, and our email is this, and date Wednesday, okay, whatever that is, and in United States, the country, or the date. Let's change the date to something else. 14/02/2022. Something went wrong. Something is wrong. So let's refresh. Something went wrong. We're going to copy the whole thing again. Sorry. Let's go first C++ Fatima. Okay, so the dates. Yeah, something is definitely wrong. So what could be wrong? So let's try to debug. Non-boolean. Where is that? Must have some issues there. Okay, so let me try to debug it myself. Okay, so we have the ID, we have. Okay, let me submit and see, so that I can see the error itself. I think this is not the issue we are having. Okay, so and let's copy our data. Trying to Fatima. I want to see the error. I said you should be able to see if you have any error. It won't show on this end. It will show on console. So updates. Aha, cannot post via user. So that's our error. I wrote user instead of users. I'm not sure it's going to forgive that. So change it to users. Yeah, nice. Look at that. So it's submitted successfully. Let's test on Safari too. I'm not sure. Oh, in fact we have to now. So I didn't work on verifying if that particular user already exists. So you can add that later if you want to do that. So let's add another user, Leofire, Leofire, some serious name there. Outlook Education, Portland, United States. So let's just have some date. 14/7. Should be able to see that information there. So we want to be able to view the user. So once you click this view user, we want to view the user. So we don't just want to view user. So that means you have to make a request to the backend to get the user information in case you refresh. We can send data from the route, but that won't work enough. We have to make the request. And so okay, so we just have to come to the user end. Okay, so we are going to need, for this, since we are making a request again, we are going to need the React hook. So use state and use effect. Okay, so we are going to need React route add-on from, we are going to need link there, the link, so that we can link back, and then use param so that we can get the param of the current route. Okay, so let id equals to use params. Okay, so user, not users, user, a particular user, right? Because we need to get the user. Okay, so we set user is equal to use state, set the default state of the user, which is just an empty object. Okay, so const loading, set loading is equal to okay, our time is really going. Okay, so we need to catch up a little bit. Okay, so false. Okay, so that's just the first state. So let's work on the use state. So use effect. I mean, so a function here, and the ID is liable to be changing. Okay, so the changes, others should change too. So that's what I mean there. So fetch, you need to fetch a user, fetch user. But you have a fetch user function. The async, and alright. So set loading, you want to check if the page is still loading. So set page to be loading to true. So that means the page will be loading now, and try. So let's just use try catch. Okay, so const response is equal to await fetch. We have backtick. Then we have, as we need to do, we have the API URL. See, automatically updated. If yours is not doing that, you need to manually do that yourself. Okay, so users ID, then ID that we have here, we got here from the parameter. Every route, if you want to view a user profile, that's an ID in the route. So ID will be supplied there. Okay, because in our endpoint, we are going to, if you want to get a single user like this, we supply to the API user, then ID. That's where we are supplying the ID now. I hope that's not confusing. So JSON and await response dot JSON. Okay, so set user. We need to set user with the response we get from the backend. That will be data is stored in the data, you see, in the data block. So don't let that be confusing. Set loading, we need to stop the loading. false. Okay, so if there is an error, so catch sorry, console.log error, you just apply that error. So set loading false. So after that, we need to call that fetch user, and that is that. So we have link that is not being used, we have user and loading that's are not being used. So let's start using them. Sorry. So, and might be a block if you check if the user is loading. Okay, so if the user is not loading, okay, not loading. All right, I hope you get the idea. So div, I want that div to work. React. Okay, div. Why is not working? Div. Okay. But else, I hope you get this binary operator thing. Else just display an empty string. So format that. Okay, so that's all good. But inside, you want to see the profile. So last name. So that means everything is set here. That's why we can see the side. So flex, justify, center, LG on a large string, minimum of large string. That's what that actually means. So the width should be 3, on the other sizes 4. And I think I need some water. Okay, so P10, nope, P padding of pen. What is going on? One moment. Okay, so and div also class margin bottom should be 10. We're almost done, don't worry. I think it's just the delete and update should be really fast because we already have the template. So item center, justify between. So we're going to need link. This link to be linking to what? Linking to index. And inside it we have each one. As a link. It will be go back. You are on a profile page, you can go back to the home page. So that's just what that does. No big deal. And it should be bold. So font bold. So that's that about the header. And let's continue. So the main information itself. So BG slate. The BG slate should be, let's just give it 100. Rounded LG, just off a little bit. Padding horizontally. And for each of them, each of the property of the user, like the name, emails, and everything. So I want to see them. Y4. Okay, so and margin bottom, margin right. For then I'm getting tired. I'll finish this. So test slate 400. So that will accept the name. That will be the name, and we are going to need the email. Okay, it will accept the name. Okay, so that will be the name, but to have margin right, and the slate to be 800, and to be a little bit bold font medium. Okay, so that kind of covers it. So let's repeat that for the remaining properties. We have, 6 wide, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have email and email. We have date and date. We have city, city. Finally, you have country, country. I think that's all. Okay, so email, date, country. Okay, so if you click on this, see, that's just so perfect. You can see the profile. Click on view profile. You see the route. We are pointing slash the ID. So the ID is going to, the page is going to pick the ID and display the data. Easy peasy. Okay, so let's go. The only thing we are left to do now is edit and delete, which will be really fast. So you notice each edit is inside each block. All right, so that means our modal will be inside each user like this. Okay, so that should be fast. So we can just have that under here. So start. Let me just forget that. Let me just go ahead and copy this. Please pay attention to what I'm copying. I'm copying from start modal because it's the same modal. So they're using the same modal. It's the same data. So there's no big deal there. Okay, each user, not view user, each user. Let me paste it here. So we have the same modal. Okay. Now the thing, what we are going to do to differentiate it from other modal is to add the ID. Okay, so dash. Well, let's try to wrap this into make it uh, into some kind of variable. All right, so that we can have the user ID. Make sure it's capital letter ID, not small letter ID. That is very important. That is case sensitive. Okay, so and the form to do the same thing to the form. So we call it edit form. So that kind of so we have store user and close modal. Okay, so this will be update user. Update user. So let's talk about that close modal and update user by creating a function here. Okay, so that's very straightforward. So but let's start with open modal and close modal. Just like this. The one we have in the main page. Yeah, we have one here. Open modal, close modal. Paste it here and pay attention. Try to pay attention to what I'm doing. So new modal, we notice that new modal has extra ID, which is what? Because the user. So we just try to concatenate it with what? The user ID. Okay, there's no big deal in it. Same thing for the close modal. And for update user function, it's similar to store user. So let's copy that to save time. You see, I'm pasting it inside each user, right? So that would be what? Update user, and you import our API URL. Please make sure you import it. Very important. We import ashes. Where is it? Okay, ashes is imported. And do you have complete form? Okay, we need complete form too. Const doesn't accept. You don't need to, because we are only talking about the current thing, current component. So that once you are done, you close Modal, you close the Modal and fetch new data. Fetch the data like we mentioned here, we supplied here. Just fetch that data. Now pay attention to this. This get element head by ID is pointing to this. So do that. So edit form dash the user ID. So that's the form we are talking about. And it's going to submit, put that in the form data and users. Now you notice form data requires the user ID, right? So just supply the user ID. So that will be what? User dot ID. Nice. So complete form, and that is really cool. So now what we need now is that we want to be able to open that edit modal. So create now user. That's the typo. So we create new user. New. Okay, so this one is update user. So let's just call it update user. And once you click it, you should be able to open that modal. So how do we do that? The edit button, right? Or click open modal. Where is it? Open modal. Do we have that form? Okay, this open modal function. Like that. But what we need now is we want to be able to see those information inside that. So to do that, that's a little bit complicated because we are going to have a hook for all of them. That's the best approach to do it. Okay, so for all of them, for all the inputs, yeah, for all the inputs. So name, value, set name, value is equal to use state, set the default state, which will be what? The username. I don't know if you understand what I mean. User supplied to there. Okay, so we're going to repeat for 5 of them. This will be email, and email. This will be date, set date value, and now we have to format the dates, so I'll come back for that later. City, this will be city. This will be city, and this will be set city name, and country value. Set country is a little bit frustrating, but just try to type them. And for that, let's come back for this. We are going to format. That's why we install moment. I want to format that moment. So you have to import moment from moment. Okay. So we format it to a format that matches input, because the HTML input field just doesn't accept any format. You have to make sure it matches the standard that is expected before it can automatically fill the content. Okay, so please pay attention to that. And yeah, that's going to do it. So let's go back to the form. This is where the job is, so that we can automatically fill the form. Okay, so for the value, so that's why we have the values, right? So value will be name value, right? This name value. For email value, you get the idea. And we are going to talk about unchange too. Unchange. So that's why we have the set on the hook set email value. So we have event, we have set name value. So what's going to be the value? So that will be e dot target tag. That's terrible spelling. Target and value. So I think that's that for the name. So let's see. Let me see. Wow, doesn't allow me to see. Okay, so okay, we have to work on the rest. Okay, so email. What? Copy the wrong thing. So I just want to repeat for the rest so that email, date, city, and country. So this will be what? Email, set email value, and date value, set date value, and city value, set city value, country, set country value. Okay, so and use state is not that is just ridiculous. Don't remember to import that. So from React, right? Use state. Okay, that's just perfect. Okay, so everything is fine. You see, it's automatically filled, even the date. You see, if you check this date, Calista Jonas is 23/01/15. So 23, you see, 2023/01/15. So it's all good on that end. So the next thing we want to do is that if you update it, will it work? So that's the big question. So let's update your file name. So let's add Mr. to it. It's not working. No, it's not working. Okay, so why is it not working? So let's use Chrome to see what's going on. We don't have any error in the console. But what if we try to submit? Method not allowed. So what's the method that we are supposed to use? Patch. Okay, so so please try to pay attention to all these things. And okay, so let's add Mr. to it. See, Mr. your file, no error. So let's change the name. Let's just add to it to see everything is working. Let's change to 08 Portland 1 United States 2 to see everything. See 222. Change to 08 Portland 1. So all the data is being updated. So everything is working fine. So the last one, the very last one is delete. So let's work on the delete function. So inside the each, we still have it inside the each user. So const delete user so you need to confirm you need to confirm if the user is sure that you want to delete that user, right? So that they might mistakenly click it. You can't retrieve the user again if you delete it. So are you sure you want to delete this user? Are you sure? So if it is true, what should it do? It should go ahead and delete. Else console.log you cancelled. You just log. So you know that okay, that's all what happened. Okay, so inside the delete, so we are still going to need the archeos. So the method is what delete, as you all know. So You won't make that mistake. And please, let's just try to copy this to save time. Copy this. So we know it's the same path with that. We have slash user slash the user ID. You have to supply that in the parameter. Okay. So what happens then? Response is going to fetch data. Which fetch data is that? This one that we supply, so that it can update the data we have in the list component. Catch if something happens. Okay, so console.log error.response. Very nice. So what's the delete? How are we going to use it? The delete button. So easy, on click, on delete. So you don't have to worry about anything. It's just there. So let's delete Mr. Leofar. You see. Are you sure you want to delete this? If you press OK, if you cancel, you say you cancelled. But if you press OK, you should delete. See, Mr. Leofar is gone. Even if you refresh, it's all gone. So if you delete, they're all gone. Delete. Let me test that on Safari too. Delete uReporter. See, uReporter is gone. And check the profile. Okay, I think this is pretty much what I displayed in the sample. I think that's everything we need to develop. So this is where we are going to stop for today. So I hope you really enjoyed the tutorial. So I'm looking forward to your subscription. If you enjoy it, please try to subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.